They say humans are fragile, soft, squishy creatures clinging to life on a chaotic planet. But every once in a while, someone comes along who laughs in the face of the Grim Reaper and says, "Not today." These are the people who walked away from bear attacks, plane crashes, and even nuclear disasters, not as victims, but as legends. Hey everyone, today we're diving into 25 insane survival stories that prove humans are far tougher than we give ourselves credit for. Before we start, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and ring that notification bell, because trust me, you don't want to miss the next wild ride. Let's get into it. 25. The woman who sewed herself back together. Sue Aikens. Most of us panic over a paper cut. Sue Aikens? She got mauled by a grizzly bear, stitched herself up, and went right back to work. Living alone in the Alaskan wilderness, Sue was attacked while fetching water. The bear dislocated her hip, shredded her scalp, and left her half dead. But instead of giving up, she crawled home, patched herself with makeshift supplies, and survived 10 days before rescue arrived. Once healed, she returned to her cabin like nothing happened. That's not survival, that's defiance. 24. The teen who hid in a plane's landing gear. Armando Ramirez. In 1969, 17-year-old Armando Ramirez wanted to escape Cuba so badly that he hid inside the wheel compartment of a jet headed for Spain. 8 hours later, frozen solid at minus 60 degrees Celsius and starved of oxygen, he somehow made it to Madrid, alive, but barely. Doctors couldn't believe it. At 35,000 feet, he should have been long gone. But this teenager literally outlasted the sky. 23. The supersonic ejection. Brian Udell. Air Force pilot Brian Udell was flying an F-15 at Mach 1 when everything went wrong. Losing control at 24,000 feet, he had seconds to eject, at supersonic speed. The sheer force dislocated both his elbows and ripped through his body, but he parachuted into the ocean and survived the impact. Even his rescue team couldn't believe it. Udell became the first and only person to survive ejecting from a jet at that velocity. 22. The man whose heart stopped for 96 minutes. Howard Snitzer. Most people can't survive 10 minutes without a heartbeat. Howard Snitzer went 96. His heart just stopped. No pulse, no oxygen, no sign of life, for over an hour and a half. Then, out of nowhere, it started beating again. Doctors called it the Lazarus phenomenon. If you ever think your Monday's bad, just remember, Howard's heart literally quit, then changed its mind. 21. The real-life Lord of the Flies. 6 Tongan boys. In 1965, 6 teenage boys from Tonga stole a fishing boat for a joyride. A storm wrecked their sail and rudder, leaving them stranded on an uninhabited island for over a year. But instead of turning savage, they worked together, farming, fishing, even building a gym and badminton court. When rescue finally came, they were healthy and united. It was Lord of the Flies, but with teamwork and heart. 20. The spy plane explosion. Bill Weaver. In 1966, test pilot Bill Weaver was flying an SR-71 Blackbird, the fastest plane ever built, at over Mach 3 when it disintegrated mid-air. Knocked unconscious, Weaver fell from 78,000 feet, yet somehow woke up floating under a parachute his suit had automatically deployed. He crash-landed with minor injuries. The co-pilot didn't make it, but Weaver's survival became aviation legend. 19. The man who drifted for 438 days. Jose Salvador Alvarenga. Imagine being lost at sea for over a year, alone, with nothing but fish, rainwater, and sheer willpower. That was Jose Alvarenga, a fisherman from Mexico, whose boat was wrecked in a storm. He survived by eating raw turtles and birds and drinking their blood for hydration. When he finally washed up 6,700 miles away in the Marshall Islands, he had become the longest castaway survivor in recorded history. 18. The woman who fell. 75 floors. Betty Lou Oliver. In 1945, a U.S. Army bomber accidentally crashed into the Empire State Building. Betty Lou Oliver, the elevator operator, was thrown into an elevator that plummeted 75 floors. Miraculously, the fallen cables coiled beneath her and cushioned the impact, saving her life. She survived both the plane crash and one of the longest freefalls in history, all in the same day. 17. The mother who performed her own C-section. Inés Ramirez. When Inés Ramirez went into labor in rural Mexico, there were no hospitals, no doctors, just her and a kitchen knife. After 12 agonizing hours, she made the unthinkable decision. She performed her own cesarean section. She delivered her baby boy safely, then stitched herself back up. Both survived. To this day, she remains the only woman known to have performed a successful self-C-section. 16. The 78-year-old soldier, Samuel Whittemore. During the American Revolution, most 78-year-olds were resting at home. Samuel Whittemore was ambushing British soldiers with a musket and sword, shot in the face and stabbed 13 times. He was left for dead, but refused to die. He recovered and lived another 18 years, officially becoming the oldest known fighter in the Revolution. 15. The Titanic survivor turned Olympian, Richard Norris Williams. Richard Norris Williams survived the Titanic sinking, spending hours in freezing waters until rescue. Doctors wanted to amputate his frostbitten legs. He refused. Instead, he forced himself to walk until circulation returned. A few years later, he won an Olympic gold medal in tennis. From shipwreck to champion. Talk about a comeback. 14. Odin the Fire Dog. When a California wildfire tore through his family's property, Odin the Great Pyrenees refused to leave his goats behind. As the flames raged, his owners evacuated, assuming he'd perish. When they returned, Odin was alive, along with every goat, plus a few deer he'd apparently adopted mid-fire. This dog didn't just guard livestock, he guarded hope. 13. The man who survived a firing squad, Wenceslao Moguel. Sentenced to death during the Mexican Revolution, Wenceslao Moguel faced a firing squad. He was shot multiple times. Then an officer delivered a final bullet to his head. Hours later, he woke up under a pile of bodies, crawled to safety, and lived to tell the tale. Locals nicknamed him El Fusilado, the executed one. 12. The girl and her loyal dog, Karina Chikitova. 3-year-old Karina got lost in the Siberian wilderness, one of the harshest places on Earth. For 11 days, she survived on berries and river water, while her dog Nida kept her warm and safe from predators. When Nida returned home alone, rescuers followed her back and found Karina alive. There's now a statue in Yakutsk honoring both girl and dog. 11. The man who hit 115 degrees Fahrenheit and lived. Willie Jones collapsed from heat stroke in Atlanta in 1980 with a body temperature of 115 degrees Fahrenheit, the highest ever recorded in a survivor. At that temperature, your brain literally cooks. But thanks to quick cooling, ice baths, and some medical miracles, Jones pulled through completely. 10. The dwarfs of Auschwitz, the Ovitz family. In 1944, 7 dwarf performers from Hungary were sent to Auschwitz, a death sentence for most. But Nazi doctors kept them alive for cruel experiments, unintentionally sparing their lives. All 7 survived the war, a rare and haunting twist of fate. 9. The skydiver saved by fire ants, Joan Murray. When her parachute failed, skydiver Joan Murray fell over 14,000 feet. Instead of hard ground, she landed on a mound of fire ants, and they attacked. The hundreds of stings caused an adrenaline surge that kept her heart beating. Fire ants, 1, death, 0. 8. The real Crocodile Dundee, Rod Ansell. Stranded in the Australian outback for 56 days after his boat capsized, Rod Ansell hunted fish, drank muddy water, and dodged crocodiles. When he was finally rescued, he was a national hero, and later inspired the movie Crocodile Dundee. 7. The pilot who escaped a nuclear bomber, Captain Adam Maddox. When his B-52 bomber malfunctioned mid-flight, Captain Maddox had no ejection seat. Still, he managed to climb out of the cockpit and jump to safety, a feat aviation experts said was impossible. He proved them wrong by surviving with only minor injuries. 6. The original castaway, Alexander Selkirk. In 1704, sailor Alexander Selkirk demanded to be left on a deserted island, thinking the ship was doomed. He was right. The ship later sank. Selkirk lived alone for 4 years, hunting goats and talking to himself for company. His adventure inspired the classic novel Robinson Crusoe. 5. The human radiation experiment, Albert Stevens. Unknowingly injected with plutonium during World War II research, Albert Stevens became the most radioactive person in history and lived 21 more years. Doctors later realized he had absorbed doses hundreds of times above lethal levels. He died of natural causes at 79. Not even radiation could take him early. 4. The Chernobyl survivor, Alexander Yuvchenko. When the Chernobyl reactor exploded, communications officer Alexander Yuvchenko was standing nearby. Severely burned and flooded with radiation, he was evacuated to Moscow and somehow survived, one of the very few who did. His testimony helped scientists understand the disaster's first moments. 3. The musician who survived 2 deaths in a day, Artemis Pyle. After Lynyrd Skynyrd's plane crashed in 1977, drummer Artemis Pyle crawled out with broken ribs and walked miles for help. When he reached a farmhouse, the owner thought he was an intruder and shot him. He still lived, crashed, crawled, shot, and survived it all. 2. The woman shot in the head by a serial killer, Lydia Preston. Serial killer Thor Christensen shot Lydia Preston point blank in the head. She somehow survived, recovered, and later testified against him. Her story remains one of the rare instances of someone surviving a direct headshot from a serial murderer. 1. The first man on D-Day, Leonard Schroeder. On June 6, 1944, Leonard Schroeder was the first American soldier to set foot on Omaha Beach. Bullets, mortars, and chaos surrounded him, yet he made it through. He not only survived the landing, but fought through the entire Normandy campaign. Imagine running into machine gun fire at 20 years old and walking away, and there you have it. 25 people who told death to take a number and wait. These stories remind us that when everything seems impossible, human willpower can rewrite the odds. Which one blew your mind the most? Drop it in the comments below, and as always, like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another incredible story.